Hello, friends. Today we come to the final episode of the 3-episode series on becoming a new manager. In the first episode, we looked at what you should do and remember as soon as you become a new manager. What are the foundations that you should lay? What are the potential mistakes that you should be careful about? In the last episode, we talked of how from being a manager to becoming a great manager, what are the things you should do? Today, we take the last step of the journey, which is the natural progression that you should be making once you become a manager, and that is to become a great leader. So having looked at what you need to become a manager, what you need to become a great manager, we are today going to look at what you need to do and be aware of to graduate from a great manager to a great leader. Most of the things that we would be talking of have been covered in the past 2 episodes. The purpose of this episode is to focus you on what are the important things out of all that we talked of. We could talk of quite a few things. And what are the important things from all of that that will help you to graduate, as I said, from a manager to a leader. So before we talk of what goes into becoming a leader, let us quickly look at what are the differences between a manager and a leader. By and large, a manager has a fixed role and a title which tells you what his role is. So a manager might be, if he's a shop floor manager, he might be the manager in charge of, say, Department X or Department Y. And his designation, his title will tell you that he is manager into bracket X or Y. So that is what a manager is. But a leader does not need, he does have, you're a CEO, you are a CFO, you are a whatever, you are one of the C-suites. And actually, you don't need to be a leader or a CEO to, don't need to be a CEO to be a leader. Okay, so a leader does not need a title, and his role is far from defined because it keeps changing, and he has to keep changing as things change. The manager's focus, by and large, is on operations and execution. The manager's role is to make sure that the roadmap that has been planned as a part of your strategy gets executed and you reach the final goal that you have planned. So his operations and execution are going to be vital. Whereas the leader, on the other hand, focuses on the vision. He focuses on the mission of the company. And he focuses on how he's going to inspire and motivate not only his managers, but his managers' teams as well. So the organization on the whole. The third point is that a manager's primary task, as we just said, is strategy implementation and following the map, right? Operations and execution. But a leader's primary task is to develop the strategy, to create the roadmap which will help you to reach the goals. And he has to do this in conjunction with the various stakeholders, keeping each of their wants, desires, expectations, as well as what he can get from the stakeholders in mind. We have discussed this. Okay. Then everybody needs to build relationships. Okay. But a manager's focus is on building relationships internally with his team and others within the organization or outside who will help him to progress and achieve the goals that have been set for the organization. Whereas a leader builds relationships with not just the executive team, so to say, but with all the stakeholders, starting with the investors and ending with the customers and vendors. And he has to also build relationships externally within the space you are operating on a bigger stage, because your business can be affected by so many things. And there could be so many different areas where you are going to need help, advice, support. So you need to build as a leader all those relationships. A manager basically drives the vision and the change that the organization has defined for itself. Whereas the leader actually creates that vision and the change that the organization should be following so that it keeps growing continuously. So having shown you the differences between a manager and a leader, I'm sure you realize that one of the first things that one needs to do to grow from a manager to a leader is to make a shift in the mindset. Because things are so drastically different. Your activities are so different that you're going to need to change your mindset in a big way. So what are the things that is involved in changing mindset? One of the first things that a change in mindset is required for graduating from a manager to a leader is that you have to move from doing things to getting things done. And trust me, that's a hard task. I have seen so many managers who, even after years of being in a managerial position, will do things themselves because that's what they are trained in. Their mental attitude is to do things. But a real leader has to get things done. And hence, a leader has to learn the art of delegating efficiently. Remember, you can never do everything by yourself. And if you're going to try to do everything by yourself, first, you'll be able to do very little. Okay? Because how much can you do? You've got 24 hours in a day. That's it. Unfortunately, God doesn't give you extra time every day. So you cannot do everything by yourself. And if you try to do that, you're going to get burnt out. And to recover from that burnout is going to be a challenging task. Besides, if you do everything yourself, your team is also not going to grow because they are only going to do that little that you've told them to do because all the other things you're doing on your own. And therefore, to make sure that you as well as your team grow continuously, you need to be able to delegate effectively, and you need to set up systems so that the delegated work gets done and you are informed both about it being progress, being satisfactory, as well as if there are any glitches that are coming up. And when such glitches come up, that's the next thing a leader should be doing, is to create a culture of continuous learning. Because when the glitches come up, you don't go and solve it and do it yourself for that person. You teach that person, you coach that person on how to do it where he got stuck. You need to nurture relationships as a leader beyond teams. As a manager, working with your team is great. Occasionally, you need somebody else from your organization, great. If you need somebody outside, you're going to go to the leader of your company and say, boss, I need this, can you help me? So as a leader, you need to nurture relationships beyond the teams. And you need to be in connect and in the know of experts who will have the requisite talent and knowledge to help you in times of your being slowed down by some issue that has come up. So a mindset involves moving from being a specialist, that's what managers are, they know that profile very well, to being a generalist. Leaders are generalists. Well, they always become leaders from being specialists in something, which is absolutely there, but they definitely need to be generalists. You need to go from being an analyst, which is what managers need to be. You need to be able to analyze productivity, speed, time motion study, whatever else it is that you need to do, to an integrator. As a leader, you need to integrate all of that together. You need to go from being a tactician, a good executor, a tactician, to a strategist, because that's the main profile of the leader. Basically, a manager is a builder, but a leader is the architect. He designs the strategy, the path, and everything. And then he tells the manager how to do it. So he is the architect, and the manager is the builder who's going to build the plan that the architect has prepared. A manager, the mindset is that of a problem solver. Because he's in operations, he's having daily challenges. But as a leader, you need to be a strategist and an agenda setter. You need to be able to set the agenda for what the company is going to do over the next many years. By and large, a manager very often is firefighting. He's a great fighter. Whereas the leader is not a great fighter. He's a great diplomat. Even in the worst of times, he is going to be able, with the help of his connections, of the relationships he has built, he is going to be able to, with that diplomacy, create the right atmosphere and find the right solutions from the company. While the manager mentality is that of a soldier, he is there on the ground fighting. As I said, he's a firefighter very often. But this leader, who's the strategist, who designs the plan, is a general and not a soldier. A manager is more like the supporting actor in a film, where even if you change that, the film is not going to have a very significant loss. But the leader is the lead actor in the film, and changing that can change the whole effect that the film is going to create in the market. So you need to change your mindset in quite a few ways. The next thing you need to do is to change your skill set. Okay, first thing you need to learn as a leader is the art of communication. Very important as a manager also. But as a leader, it is even more important to learn the art of communication. And you should be able to communicate with clarity in such a way that everybody whom you are addressing the communication to understand it clearly without any ambiguity. And you need to learn the art of communicating at the right time. A communication delayed is as good as that communication not having been made. You need to be able to have the skill set to unlock your own potential as well as the potential of your entire team to the maximum. And while you have to learn delegating, you also have to learn reporting and accountability. And that starts with you. You have to manage down and you have to manage up. So you need to be accountable to yourself is the most important thing. But by and large, You, as a leader also, you will be accountable to somebody. It may be the board of directors, it may be the financials, whoever it is. But you need to be accountable and you need to build accountability. You need to have a basket which has certain tools in it. Or should I say a toolbox rather than a basket? So what does that toolbox have? The first thing is you should have the intent and capability to coach and train your team. By your team, I mean your managers. The managers will train their teams. So you need to have the intent and capability to coach and train your team. Make use of consultants and advisors. You do not know everything. Trust me about that. As we have this thing in Gujarati, most of the people think they are MBAs. MBAs in Gujarati stands for Mane Badhu Avde Che. I know it all, but you don't. So whenever necessary, bring in the consultant, take the advice of people, bring in advisors, but make sure that you have the intent and capability to coach. A tried and tested feedback loop is very necessary. Because whenever people are doing something, you need feedback. You yourself may be doing something wrong, and that feedback is going to help you to correct yourself. So you need to have a time and tested feedback loop within your toolbox. And you need to have the intent again to act on it in a positive manner. Because all the feedback you get may not be the ones you want to hear. And when you hear something that you don't want to hear, you should fly off the handle or take it in negative sense, but be proactive, positive, and make sure that that feedback is taken for the betterment of the organization. Be humane and empathetic at all times. Prioritize the well-being of your team. And it starts with your managers. You can't go howling at them. You can't expect them to do 14-hour work days, 7 days a week. You have to be aware and conscious of your team's well-being, both mental and physical. And you need to have complete and unequivocal trust in yourself that you are capable of doing all these things that we are talking about. And when we are talking about all this, there are certain things you should be doing all the time. Share your intentions, share your long-term vision, share your goals, share the intended changes that you are planning to bring about with clarity and with complete transparency. I can't say it more often, walk the talk. Always be fair and unbiased. We just talked of well-being of the team, prioritize it. Especially during turbulent times, during difficult and challenging times. Support and coach. Recognize, applaud, celebrate. And all this together will help you to motivate. Very important thing. A lot of leaders I've seen don't do this. They are always falling back on this particular aspect. Is empower yourself to empower and give and delegate to others. It's an empowerment that you need to. So let's face one thing. All great managers do not end up becoming great leaders. Just like all great workers and operators do not become great managers. A worker may be fantastic at his job, but he may be having very poor people skills and therefore will be a lousy manager. All of these positions require different mindsets and different skill sets. Develop your mindset and skill set and hone them to the best so that you will become the great leader that I'm sure you are all aspiring to be. With this, we conclude the new manager series. We shall look at something different in the next episode. Thank you and have a great evening.